Welcome, and thank you for joining us for Contemporary Art Taos 2020, the Artist Interview Series. The series consists of short interviews between myself and the artists of the exhibition and is released twice a month for the duration of the show. I'm Nicole, the Curator of Exhibitions and Collections at the Harwood Museum of Art, and joining me today is Patricia Michaels. Well, thank you for joining us, Patricia.
And hello, Nicole. Here who taught mawani in yuna natayawanta with the Harwood Museum. Want to thank every one of you for joining me with the Harwood Museum today. And my native name is Waterlily, and I'm also known as Patricia Michaels.
Thanks, Patricia. Patricia actually has a work in our show. It's the first time it's ever been shown. I have the sketch behind me right now, but I hope you'll all go to our Facebook or go to our website and see the full dress that she's created. It's called Reflections of My Journey to Our Sacred Blue Lake. So you have this incredible list of accolades, Patricia. You were the first runner-up on Project Runway. You were awarded the very prestigious Arts and Design Award from the Smithsonian National Museum of the American Indian. You were the first Native American designer to have a collection at the Lincoln Center during the Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week in New York City. We're so grateful to have you and your dress at the museum right now. Can we start just sort of from the basics? Tell us about how you created this dress. I know I was so blown away when I realized how much of it you're doing by hand. So if you could just walk us through that process, that'd be great.
So sure. When I created this piece, which I really encourage all of you to please to go to the website and see the details that goes into this dress. And due to COVID, unfortunately, we're just gonna have to do it this way. But everything starts off white. My canvas for my garments comes out as a white piece of fabric on a roll. And I take whatever materials I'm using, which are the finest of silks, which I choose and I love to work with because then everything is hand painted or textured and dyed and manipulated, and the drape of silk is so beautiful that the amount of work and hours and time that goes into the textile and the sewing and the draping and the patterning it takes a lot of time. So I want to use the best materials that I can buy in the industry to really make a statement. So if we start from the bottom up, besides, we'll get to the pedestal later because the pedestal is really beautiful. It's amazing. But if we start on the bottom, we have the beautiful leggings, which are our type of traditional wedding boots, but I did them in a beautiful silk. And it was a challenge because to make folds and to create a sculpture with just one stitch and just some folds is really difficult with silk. You really have to be patient. I had a pet black widow in the 4th grade because I wanted to learn how to work with silk. And the only thing the black widow taught me how to do was not to be scared because the black widow is like crazy when it makes its web. But anyhow, and then I just watched how beautiful and delicate the fingers of the black widow would, go to its prey, and just pushing the silk so delicately that I learned the patience of that, but not and to really experiment and work with silk just by watching that spider when I was a kid. And then later on, I just with no fear just kept doing that same technique. So we were going down with the pure white boots. Then the skirt itself is all hand pleated, and at the bottom, when I hand painted it, those are, because the theme is about Blue Lake, the return of our sacred Blue Lake. I really wanted blue to be in and out of the themes of all my textiles. So I first pleated, let's see, 6 times 4, 24 yards is the amount on the skirt of fabric. And if you laid it out, the hem is kind of uneven. That's because the terrain of our mountains, when you're walking, earth, you go up and down, and there's hills and there's bumps and there's crevices and there's dirt and there's mud and there's twigs, there's everything. So I kind of wanted the hem, and I wanted the pleats to be like that of the terrain. And the blue is always keeping in mind the sacred water, which Blue Lake comes from, is our sacred water. The darkness is the mystery of what that sacredness means to us as Native Americans at Taos Pueblo. That belongs to my village. It doesn't belong to me. So I won't explain to you what all that sacredness is about. But the importance is in this mystery, know that we go up there to pray and we never leave anybody out of our prayers. Everybody's a part of our prayer. Then around on the top of the skirt is this beautiful belt. And when you go to really look at the belt and the details at the museum, you will see that the belt is velvet. And then I etched out the pile of velvet. So what you see is blue, the little earth pattern, like growth designs, those little flowering that's coming out. That is where the velvet has been taken out. And then I painted that part of the silk blue, so that then the part of the pile of the velvet is rayon, and that stayed white. And so the belt has a sacred four directions, and it's a theme that I've used in a lot of other pieces of my art, which is so that people will have a safe journey no matter where they go and they travel, and that they respect the terrain that they walk on. As Taos Pueblo natives, one thing that we always are taught from the moment that we learn how to walk is to walk gracefully, and to be aware of the sacred grounds that we walk on, not only at our village, but wherever we go. The minute we leave our tribe, we have to recognize that we share this earth together. So the belt has a really deep meaning at the center core, the core of who we are, our existence, what we then wrap, and we, as women, we protect that area. We have to, that's where our children, we conceive, and we have our children grow there inside of our womb. We protect this area. So this area is always about knowledge, and how we share this, and we continue our traditions only through by teaching. This is an oral taught tradition. And when you orally are teaching something, in order for somebody to completely understand it, they have to participate. So all of this is really the responsibility of your household, and how they nurture you, and then this in turn really then goes out to the rest of the world, because then you have this beautiful child who wants to share, their way of life in such a gentle, mindful way. So the belt is really important part of this garment. And even traditionally, our sacred belts are important. Then you can't see the top underneath, but it's just off the shoulder, like manta top. And it's just in black. We're gonna go to the top, like you'll see it's like kind of a plaid shorter cape, black and white. That would be our traditional backpack. And I decided to make it plaid because a lot of times for ceremonies that we're doing more like outdoor mountain, we wear really lots of wool and like these beautiful materials that are more for outdoors. But this is all silk, keep in mind. So that's just kind of them bringing us back to, well, this inspiration really comes from being outside, being outdoors. So I had to put that patterning in there. But yet it's, it's just this beautiful silk backpack. Now the shawl, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Okay, so now the shawl is the long cape that you see flowing in the back of the garment. And you'll see on the sides, you'll see these lines that are these textured lines of greens and blacks and gold and turquoise. And that is a silk, and this is all hand painted. Everything's hand painted. This is a silk chiffon. And that is just all the trees that you see when you're on your journey in the mountains. You're passing such beautiful terrain and vegetation and trees and nature, and everything just becomes like shapes and color and shapes and color. So that's what I see when I'm walking. Now the long cape, which is the turquoise color, which is really bright, like a illuminating, beautiful color of turquoise and blues. Blue Lake is a glacier lake, so it's not, if you know what a glacier lake is, it's water that's coming from rain and snow, and so you have these beautiful dark waters that are up in the mountains that is a lake. So really the color is a really rich, soily, beautiful color. But because it's a glacier lake, I wanted to make a connotation of where the water is coming from the sky. So I made it that beautiful, brilliant blue sky color, the reflection of, we take care of also our sky. We have to take care of all parts of the environment so that we do have water, and so that, water is pure and clean for us. The reason I also, and then the cape, if you see it in other images, you will see that it's really long, and I think it's again, 12-inch long cape. And what's really nice about it being that long is Taos Pueblo, when we got Blue Lake back, we were able to preserve our water so we can still drink it. The water that comes all the way from Blue Lake, all the way down into the Taos Pueblo, into our village, it is still pure drinking water. And in the time that they took our sacred land away from us, from 1906 to 1970, that's 64 years, we could have lost that purity of water, but we didn't. We've been able to preserve it, and we still keep it very clean and pure, just original. And this is the importance of who we are at Taos Pueblo. This is the beauty of all my ancestors who didn't get to see this come to fruition. The ones who first started, and from the time that it was taken away from us, they started to try to preserve and keep this for us. And now that long lineage is part of the reason why it has such a long cape. And that's all hand painted too. Every single drop is hand done. So it's not like, it's just a splatter, splatter, splatter. That cape, every little dot is done with my hand, with chink, chink, with dye. And then, and that's a lot of work. That's a lot of hours. And then after I dye all of this stuff, you have to remember, then I have to steam it in this archaic, crazy cylinder that I make. And that takes another 3 hours for each piece of steaming. And then I have to rinse it again. And then I have to iron it again. And then I have to go back to my patterning and then cut it out and drape it and cut it out and drape it. And then I sew it. And then, also the hair. I had to order this cool white hair. The reason I chose white hair was for wisdom. This is years and years of wisdom that we're handing down to the next generation. So I wanted to give the credit to all the beautiful people in my life who have been to Blue Lake and taught me all about it, and then that I'm handing this down to the next generation, and I've told them how, what we need to do. And then of course the ribbons are just like these exaggerated exotic buns that I just put because it's contemporary. I always want to encourage the youth to be proud of who they are, where they come from, to have this contemporary excitement that, as natives, we still exist today. We're still here. We're always working to preserve who we are. And we're always working to continue to have our own voice without being subjugated to being something archaic. No, we've always had trade. So
I'm gonna you real fast.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay. It's great. There's so much detail. There's so much symbolism. It's hard to get it all in. I do want to make sure everyone who's watching, everyone might not know the history of Blue Lake, which is truly a unique story of American history. Blue Lake is the site of sacred Pueblo ceremony that was taken from the Pueblo people by the U.S. government in 1906 and turned into national forest land. And after decades and decades of fighting, legal battles, I mean, just incredible strength and courage, the Pueblo people got the land back, and it's now exclusively for the Pueblo to use. It's exclusively for Pueblo ceremony. It's incredible. I mean, that story just is unheard of. It's really inspiring still. And this year is actually the 50th anniversary of the return, right?
Yeah, so last year was the 50th anniversary of return, and
You,
that's why I did the Blue Lake piece to celebrate the anniversary. And with the Harwood Museum being a wonderful place that houses, excuse me, all the archives of the history of that, is really a wonderful attribute to the town of Taos that we have this. And for people who are trying to know and figure out more about that, I'm sure you could write to the Harwood and they'd be more than happy to help you. And these are really important things that we have to recognize, why it's important to support our museums. And that helps keep our knowledge that is very vital to us safe. And so when I was asked to be part of the show, I was honored. And of course, what better celebration could I give? And it works, simultaneously for the museum and us. And part of the whole celebration of Blue Lake, something that I had read, and I'm going to read a little quote because it was through our attorney at the time, Jerry Strauss. He had said that this changed the getting Blue Lake back, changed things in Indian affairs to end determination era, where many in Congress felt the solution to Indian problem to make them like everyone else. So, our whole life, since the new world came to our old world, we have been fighting to exist. And part of me becoming a fashion designer was consciously done. I loved all the arts and fashion. You get to do kind of all the arts in there anyway. Was consciously done because I knew that it was an arena where it has the biggest workforce of artisans. I mean, like it employs so many artists. So if you can get your name out there to talk about Native issues as a designer, you're impacting a lot more people to hear what you have to say and what needs to be understood as for Native Americans. And so when I did like Project Runway, they couldn't understand what kind of designer I was because I was so in tune with nature and everything had a meaning behind it. But that was because I needed to address a world that I felt was shallow. Consumers, sorry be it true, but I wanted to challenge myself as an artist to have people who were consumers actually feel something when they purchase something. And I did, and I do, and it feels great because growing up, we've always got ready for ceremonies and everything we did has a meaning behind it. And so in today, what we're dealing with COVID and all these other issues, if we could just recognize from day to day that everything has a meaning behind it, maybe we can then internalize our thought and process of what we're going to get done to that day to have more meaning, rather than just go out there and pillage and take and not recognize how it harms living existence. So this piece has so much meaning behind it, and it's always been the flow of my work to have meaning behind what we do. But we don't have to be like stuck on like, ooh, I gotta have meaning today, and then like be on a rampage.
well, related, I've heard you talk in other interviews about the importance of contemporary Native arts and how contemporary Native artists don't necessarily have to have one aesthetic. They don't have to be super Native in everything that they do. How do you see yourself in that sort of ongoing conversation with contemporary Native arts?
Well, I see myself being that person because I'm always trying to develop new ideas into my design concept and use new materials and not be afraid of any kind of brushstroke or color, and really explore what's available to us. And I think that for a lot of museums, I'm sorry, and a lot of um, collectors and historians and film, Hollywood, they've tried to keep us in this one realm of what Native Americans look like.
Mhm.
And, you know, pre-Columbus, the northern continent and the southern continent, we were all trading with one another and doing fabulous things. And then when the new world came into our old world, we used new material to always create what was for our ceremonies. So by always creating what's new for ceremonies and for patrons to wear, I feel like that gives the new but the old that's always been there within us. It's kind of a weird balance, right? But
Mhm.
it's always been us. It's just that for some reason there was these boundaries that were put upon us as creative people. And I say no, no boundaries, as long as it's not hurting anybody, and as long as it's truly yours. If your tells you no, don't use it, then don't use it. Find a different way to express it. Be
Mhm.
mindful. Let's, and let's share this. Let's share the confidence that we can be our own heart and mind.
Let's talk a little bit about nature. I mean, you mentioned it several times when discussing the specific pieces of this, but it's really struck me. There's not only these visual references to nature, including the beautiful, long, flowing robe that looks, everyone who walks in, it's a waterfall, it's a river. People have this immediate realization that it looks like some sort of body of water they've experienced. But you also in your materials you use a lot of natural materials like algae. So what is that relationship with nature and how do you work on keeping it so close within your artwork?
Um, well, then it just helps me to when I'm using natural materials and fibers and chemicals to go into the dyeing process, then it just helps me to really allow that really natural hand painterly feeling to just go and not try to fight it. Um, it's just like water. Water is at the mercy of where it falls and its path, will take it to where continues to flow. So I try to have that same kind of feeling, like not forcing anything, just really being in the moment. And I think that when you become to be in the moment and aware of your surroundings, then you're really enjoying and appreciating who you truly are. And maybe for some artists it's not about nature, and maybe it's more about concrete, but they're still in their moment and they're not forcing it, they're feeling it, and it allows them to be who they are. So I choose as much natural process and materials to work with because it just adds to who I am. Even there's on the bottom of the sculpture there's these little flowers, and they look like little humans. They're kind of like little pretty girls, at this beautiful base of where the garment sits on top of this beautiful adobe podium box.
This is my
And
favorite integration. To explain, um, Patricia brought in James, this wonderful person in town who knows how to do Pueblo mudding, and they actually mudded the pedestal that's underneath the dress. It's gorgeous. I've never seen anything like that.
yes, so James, my companion, James Duran, he came in and he does a lot of historical restoration, and we all do that, but he does that also too for a living. And he as busy as he was doing another job. He brought in his mud and he's like, okay, let's get this done. And we did, he got it done. And it was like, it seemed like the easiest part. But when you're an artist, it's never that easy. It's like you have to go get the materials in the mountains, screen it, get straw, get mud, and all that stuff. So it's always the prep work, and then right when you're doing it, it seems easy. So, but it's beautiful because then it gives you that sense of my people and where we're coming from. It's that beautiful walking in grace, walking on top of the Pueblo adobe structure, you walk with pride and grace. And so I wanted my woman, I wanted her to be like the superhero, native woman of understanding all these connections and layers. And so, that's why you have the two little flowers. And then also in her hand, she has these little round, um, pretty silk bundles. And those are significant of, as a mother, I have two beautiful children, Gabriel Mozart Abeta and Margot Jane Abeta. And they when they were little children, I would make little fun native snacks for them. And then we tie them in these bundles and we'd go out hiking. But I always wanted to make like native food really fun for them and ceremonies fun so that they'd be excited to participate. So that's just symbolic of being a contemporary mother and having still a connection for extending that understanding with our children.
Great. Well, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you have coming up right now?
Yeah. So I finished doing a bunch of films with my son and my nephew Cam and Cameron Martinez. He's the one that's in the film that you saw. He's the cinema photographer. And then so I've been doing a lot of that just because of COVID. But then I recently just finished doing another film with Indigenous women. And I can't, until it's released, I can't really talk about it, but it's really exciting and it's really fun. Once again, where, talent is wearing my garments and they're showing their talent and they're all young and they're fun and they're really special. And the garments are reflective of the culture they're coming from, but then with a little bit of me, of Taos Pueblo. And so I can't, it should be premiering at the end of this month. So look out for that. I'm continuing to do masks, which is really important because even if everybody's getting vaccinated, there are people out there who are allergic to the vaccination. And, I hope that people be mindful and still, think about others because not everybody can take the vaccination. And I know this because I'm allergic to so much medicine. When I found out I could, I was relieved. So, I'm vaccinated, but, I hope people continue to be mindful. Then I'm working on some stuff for a company for pets and that'll come out in the summertime. So I'm continuing with that. I also am working with my investors. Now that things are starting to open up, we're working towards a new collection and we'll see when we're going to release it. But there'll be all new garments, new fabrics, more ready to wear, and which is really nice because now that I have investors, I can do a bigger ready to wear. Plus, I can also help other people do their ready to wear because I have production capability now. So if people need to explore that, we're available to help you. And that took many years for me to find a really quality team that could really get that done with quality merchandising at a great price. That took me forever. And it's available now. And it's available to you guys too. So you don't have to go through that craziness that I did.
It's exciting that you're becoming a mentor now.
Yeah, and you know what? I've always wanted to be that stronger mentor, but until I really had a team that I knew could really then give something that was satisfactory, I always kind of felt like, oh, I'll help you do your portfolio. That's a start, right? I'll help you get into college, I'll help you get into that job in the industry or near to where you need to go. And that's been fun. But now it's a higher level.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us, Patricia, and thank you all for joining us on Facebook Live. Tune in next time on March 17th for our interview with Lynette Pazaus. Have a good day.
Bye.